Bonjour, hola, and hello, everybody. You are listening to Worldwide Tea. It is the international drag race podcast where every single week we recap and recover and reconvene and conclave over everything that's going on with the international drag race seasons. Of course, there's none right now, but we're still making this the one-stop resource for everything you need to know. As always, I am Evan Zadi from Pop Matters.
I'm Gregory from the playlist, and every now and again you'll find me in the LA Times.
And oh my goodness, we don't have any drag race going on this week. And obviously, if you want to get our thoughts on season 17 in the US, which is part of the world, I'm told for now, please check it out in the last week. But the one thing we do want to say is that we said we wanted to make this a resource for people who may not be familiar with it. And this is why our long-standing threat that we've had about ranking the best international lip syncs, it's happening today. Greg and I came up with a top 10 list completely independent of each other, so we don't know who's picked what, and we're going to go through it, and it's going to be really, really exciting. And of course, we all say this as we find out that allegedly, it looks like season 4 of Italia is actually going to happen finally. We haven't gotten an official press release, but basically Priscilla all but announced that it's happening right now, which is very exciting.
Well, Priscilla was with the producer who's
Right.
been made the show on every incarnation, and it was the first time he publicly said something that, yes, we will be coming back soon, but he didn't say partners or when or whenever. So, but very exciting, and I'm a big Drag Race Italia stan, and in fact, I will say that my top 10 does not have an Italian lip sync in it, and I realized it was like one of the prefaces I personally wanted to have for this is I feel like anyone listening to this is going to be like, well, what about this lip sync and what about this thing?
Right.
And I think a lot of it is, as much research as we both did, a lot of it is what's top of mind. And a
Hmm.
lot of it is also some of the franchises are more top of mind than others. So I'll be honest, I don't have I'm sure there is a great Drag Race Holland lip sync that I just don't remember, that I
Hmm.
didn't even remember going back and looking at. I'm sure I am missing one or two great Drag Race France lip syncs. I
Hmm.
am definitely missing early season 1 or season 2 Drag Race España lip syncs that I should have
Hmm.
considered that just didn't pop, because I remember at the time, Seth List, even on her first time she came around, was great. But I feel like my list, it gives a long, like, it has scope and breadth. But just because your favorite franchise isn't on the list doesn't mean they don't do great lip syncs. I will
Hmm.
say Down Race Down Under maybe can really qualify for any, but who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. The one other thing I do want to say is going through, because as I do love my Italia, is going back and look at some lip syncs. I did not love her drag, but I forgot how good Ava Hanger was as
Oh my
actually a
God,
lip
yes.
sync as a lip sync assassin. Super
She
good.
could sell. She could sell.
But
She
the
was
beard,
insufferable at times, but my God, she could sell.
also the beard.
Uh-huh.
But yes, but so there are I will say that in some of my picks even you can be a great lip syncer and not necessarily a great drag queen. Like
Right. It's different skills sometimes,
yeah.
arguably. Yeah. And to that end, let me just also say number one is a qualifier, just as a reminder to everyone in this house of love. We believe all drag is valid. No queen ever deserves online hate. We are entertainment journalists from America, so we may not get every cultural reference and appreciate corrections. And there are truly great queens who simply aren't good at drag race, and we celebrate them all the same. They might be great lip syncers, though. And for me, one of my qualifications has always been what makes a great lip sync. The song choice is usually helpful, but it really
Yeah.
is there one queen that's excelling? Sometimes that's enough to carry it. Sometimes it's both queens working in tandem and excelling. And then I other think the thing that when we talk about this list, and this came up in another list that I saw, is the X factor. What were the storyline things? Were these
Hmm.
two enemies that were fighting for the first time? Like we can argue maybe an Alyssa Fifi lip sync may not be, like on top of mine, but if there's chemistry, if there's rivalry, sometimes that will breed out in here. Or Evie and Brooklyn from season 11, when they lip sync for the first time, they were the front runners in the bottom spot and they both fought their way out of it. So we'll
Yeah.
see how it goes. We have two different top 10s. We're going to go through it right now. I'm going to surprise Greg right now. I'm going to tell you with my number 10. Oh, go ahead.
Oh wait, I have one quick thing.
Yes.
I've not spoken to you about this, Evan, but I have an idea because so many things are out of mind. I'm sure in 3 weeks both of us will be like, "Oh, crap, I forgot about whatever."
Right.
I think we should make this a our annual yearly return to our top 10.
Oh,
So a
yeah.
year from now, we sort of like the Billie Eilish interview that she always
Yeah.
does
Yeah.
with Vanity Fair. Like,
Yeah.
what did, next year we might be like, no, now that I think about it, my number one is terrible. It shouldn't even be on the list. I think we should, as long as we're not in camps, like
Uh,
should commit ourselves to, no matter what's going on in the world, trying to do this a year from now. We should make this our Billie Eilish Vanity Fair annual top 10 rankings list and see how it changes. It might drastically change a year from now.
I absolutely agree on this one here. And I say that because very specifically my top 10 was one I've been doing a rewatch of it, so it's top of mind for me actually.
Mhm.
And it's not one I don't think it's necessarily one of the all-time lip syncs, but it definitely is one where it recontextualized so many things for me. I'm pulling one out of the back of my pocket. I'm kind of blown away that it's even on here. But my number 10 pick, Tessa Testicle versus the only Naomi from Drag Race Germany, holding out for a hero. And the thing about this particular one was that obviously we know from both Germany as well as Global All Stars, is Tessa Testicle the greatest queen that's ever graced the stage now? Is she entertaining and can she sell a lip sync? Yes. And most importantly, the only Naomi, she was a fashion girly who was kind of insufferable, kind of like, she was
Mhm.
doing okay, but she definitely had looks for her. And in this lip sync, Holding Out for a Hero, a non German song, let's not forget, blew herself out to try and fight and win and showed another side to herself that just shocked me. Like, there was, for me, there was another choice. I believe it was when Pandora Nox sent home Tessa Casticle as
Mhm.
well. I think that was another very, very strong lip sync that happened. And like, it's the one because I'd never seen anyone so hyped for it when Pandora Nox was like, I'm ready to lip sync. I'm so excited. Let me show who I am. But for me, that Germany lip sync, to take a queen who I was like, I'm ready for this bitch to go, to completely rewrite, like, oh, you are an entertainer. I don't know why I haven't seen any of this from you at any
Mm.
point in the season so far. It kind of recontextualized everything I did. If you remember our Global All Stars pick, I actually selected only Naomi because maybe she's in
Mhm.
another thing. But it was like, I really was like, wow, this changed how I feel about her. And it was why we have lip syncs. It's to show that other side, that power of it. I would be surprised if Greg picked it on his top 10, but that was, at least for me, that snuck in very much at that line at number 10.
Well, listen, I did not pick, it did not make my top 10, but I did freaking log on to WoW Presents because it was the only way I could find to watch it. So I watched it in context. I just don't think it's that great, but I'm
Okay.
glad you love it. That's just my personal opinion. And it's not anti-Tessa. I was like,
Right.
I was like, well, maybe my memory's wrong. Maybe it's better than I thought. I thought she was just I thought only Naomi was all over the place in that lip sync and she was trying
Which is
super
fair.
hard, but
Yeah.
it was not as memorable to me as
Some of the other
I
ones.
actually was like, I didn't have time. I was like, do I need to find a Pandora lip sync and like, see how great she was? But I couldn't find, I don't remember any Pandora lip sync being like, oh my God, she's like the bee's knees or like incredible or whatever, but maybe she is.
Mhm.
My number 10 is is actually a Drag Race España lip sync from Drag Race España All Stars, which I feel like we have forgotten because the drama was so bad and it so tainted the season. We have forgotten how great the performances were, the challenges
The
were,
runways. It
the
was a good
runways.
season,
It was a
truly,
good
despite some of the
season,
bitterness. Yeah.
except when they spoke to each other. If you could cut all that out, you'd be like, this is a great season. So my number 10 is Samantha Ballantines versus Drag Sethless for the finale lip sync for Eloise. I think that was the name of the song. And Sethless, the chaos agent that she is,
She is.
she still killed it in this lip
Yeah.
sync. She had the most incredible outfit for that finale, which was like a Russian teacup thing. It was
Hmm.
beautiful. And for the lip sync, there have been other queens who there was definitely another queen who's done this before, but she went on, not only did she get off the stage, she sexily crawled across the judges panel desk
Hmm.
and then jumped off and did a split on the ground,
Like the pit.
which
Yeah.
was super high. It was like is
Is
she
she
gonna
gonna
jump
jump
from
from
there?
there? Right.
Yeah. And it's a really great lip sync. It's hard to find. I only found it on TikTok. It's not on it's sort of
Like
been
YouTube or the
scrubbed.
socials. Yeah.
Yeah. But I will give them credit. That's a great lip sync. And also that season also had a bunch of other, there's another great Samantha versus drag Sethless lip sync. and but I don't like it because it's the one where Seth List took a image of Sagittaria and brought it to her face and then ripped it. Like, it was, again,
Spirit.
it
Yeah.
was one of the meanest seasons of all, and we've seen some mean seasons.
Yes.
Um, but that was my number 10. But it is an all-timer. Like, you watch it and you go,
Absolutely.
this is drag excellence.
Yeah, there was no question about it. And I also, for the record, Samantha Ballantyne, she didn't give up, but also it was pretty
Mm-mm.
obvious what was going to happen narratively. Uh, didn't make my list, but I'm glad you picked it on there because Espana was in my mix.
So what is your number 9, Evan?
My number nine, I was so surprised by it too. A Canada 4, Aurora Matrix versus Near Enough during the Lollapalooza. And this one here, it was kind of surprising because I have a feeling about the way when Drag Race does a song again. Because a lot of times when they do some of these songs, they're already iconic. Because this particular song, we already know was iconic from the Jujubee lip sync from season 2 of the US, or
Mhm.
Drunken, This is Why We Need to Stop Giving Girls Alcohol in the Workroom and anymore thing. Like, I was thinking about it too, but this was another X Factor one. We knew Aurora Matrix was a star, but near enough throughout this thing, she was a competitor who I had kind of like, for the most part, like was kind of forgetting. She was giving entertainment lip syncs, but throughout 4 different lip syncs of that episode, rewrote her narrative
Yeah.
because she was a lip sync assassin in the sense that, my God, every lip sync, she didn't repeat a single move. She completely rearranged her performance style as she kept going on. And then to do this more sultry, to do this more sexy number, she really held her own. She won the episode and ultimately like won the challenge for the week for that one too. And I was pleasantly surprised. It really took a queen who I was like, oh, she's there, she's funny or whatever, and completely was like, she might have a chance to be there. She made it to top 4. She didn't win, and understandably, but I was the kind of thing where this is the one of the rare times that a recontextualized lip sync worked, I think, really well. The only other time I would say is probably Global All Stars when we had I Drove All Night, once
Mhm.
again reiterated because the Priyanka Kiara lip sync was pretty amazing. And then we had the brand new one, which had, unfortunately, our Sweet Sweet Pythia had to go home against the
Yeah.
unstoppable Vanity Vane. But for me, that was my number 9. I'm curious if any of Canada made it on your way or if that one even hit your list.
Um, sort of a Canada made my list. I think you're going to be shocked. I think our lists
Ooh.
are very different. But there's one, my number 9, I am guessing you have much higher on your list. But and I haven't been critical of this lip sync. I think it's a great lip sync. I just think now it's gotten too overhyped. But it
Mm.
is a top 10 for the international seasons, and that
Okay.
is Horacio Potasio versus Lena Fox. And here's the thing, and I've said this on the podcast before. If this lip sync was on a different stage against a darker background, when maybe they both weren't, I think they both have blonde wigs, or one of them has a blonde, it all washes out against this like background. So no matter how I watch it on my television, if I watch it on YouTube, watch it on the phone, I always feel like they're washing out against the background as an image. And I have to literally stop and be like, oh no, wow, she just did something incredible. They did something incredible because it fades away. And
Hmm.
I I don't know. We don't know if Mexico is going back to Colombia. It's unclear. I assume they are. But I hope they find a way to fix that. For some reason, luckily, I think also that season a lot of the girls were wearing pastels, like the Mexican girls. And I think it wasn't as big an issue for Global All Stars because those girls were wearing more darker. Like if you go back and look at the runways, it's not very pastelly.
Hmm.
But you even notice it actually a little bit when Pythia goes against Vanity Vane, which might make my list later. But I will say they are incredible. Their timing is great. They are freaking dancers, the house down boots, like Mama. Like
And
I
they
would,
they're in sync sometimes. Like it's
yeah.
really just like entertaining. Their energy is kinetic. It reads off the stage.
If someone was like, they're going to be in Ontario, it's a 2 hour drive, will you go and see them? And I'm like, if you're driving, let's go. Like
Yeah.
it is great. It is an all-timer. And by the way, is the song 1 2 3 Go? I don't even
Yeah.
actually know okay, that is the song.
Yeah. I
But that's
playlisted
a
it afterwards. Yeah.
oh yeah, that's a great one. So do you have any other thoughts on that, or maybe you want to keep your thoughts for later?
I mean, I'll save it for later, but yes, unsurprisingly, that is
The
absolutely. on my list. The next one, I'm actually very surprised by that. I have a queen twice in a row on my list. But my number 8, you want to talk about X Factor? You want to talk about narrative? Listen, I am so sorry. Amy Yonce Chanel versus Near Enough from Canada 4. That
Oh.
was a lip sync. Let's not. I saw that. Let's not even talk about right beforehand, before it even happens, the most epic fight to ever happen in the Canadian workroom. Because let me tell you, obviously, Amy Yonce Chanel and Near Enough, there is no love lost whatsoever. And of course, the iconic line of, "Can you even do the splits?" Is
Mm.
the first time ever that a Drag Race girl has had their song on there, with Priyanka featuring Lemon with Come Through, which was a thrill all by itself. But on top of it, they go ham at it. I mean, it is one of the things, they are fighting, and it's so clear. Like, it's not hatred, but they clearly don't like each other, and they are not afraid to let each other know it. They are using every lyric to point it at the other person, to flip off the other person. It is an actual fight, and there's one other one on my list that is definitely a fight, rest assured. But for me, it was the kind of thing where, is it like an all-time in terms of like tricks, in terms of theatrics? Not necessarily, but the fact that that narrative that they had came together so succinctly in the course of that episode, that's what really helped drive the lip sync for me, and that is why it is on my spot as well. Do you have any thoughts on that?
So here's my thing.
Okay,
I,
I'm fine.
I don't dislike Near Enough. I think she's a fine queen. I don't
Mhm.
love her aesthetic. I really don't like her outfits. That's
Yeah.
just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
She seems super nice. I know that her boyfriend dumped her after she was on the show. Like, I feel bad, like, or they broke up or something. So I feel bad for that. But and because she had a freaking hot boyfriend. But well, rewatched that lip sync. I will give her and Aura credit for the Hard Velvet lip sync.
Yeah.
It's not my top 10, but it's a very sexy lip sync. But I feel like Aurora is much better in it than Near. My problem with this lip sync when I watch it again is the energy, they're going at it, but Nira is also doing a bunch of just like brunch, Hell's Kitchen numbers, spin the arm. Like, as it's a
Dynamic.
fight, but it's not as original or dynamic as I would like, especially to a song that everybody knows,
Right.
which in theory, like I didn't put it on my list. One of my honorable mentions is Soa versus Gala for the beginning, but even that, they're all doing no one's doing like, brunch numbers or doing like the duck walk. They're both at least doing like their own thing in a way. In this, I felt, if you rewatch it one more time, it's just my personal criticism,
Mhm.
you see this, not the stereotypical, but the memorable like drag dance moments, performance moments that pop up sort of everywhere. And granted,
Mhm.
listen, there's only millions of things you could do with the human body and things get repetitive, but that's just
Right.
my take. But I'm glad that you love it, and I'm glad you love Near Enough, and I will get you some merch for Christmas because
I'm not the world's biggest Near Enough fan, but I will say that,
I
like,
don't know.
that that season of Drag Race, though, that had season 4 had some really
Yeah.
great lip syncs. I also think about it didn't make my honorable mentions, but the uninvited lip sync with the Venus versus
Hmm.
Aurora was also up there too. But
Oh
what
yeah.
what is your number 8?
My number 8, I hinted at it earlier, is Pythia versus Vanity Vane for Global All Stars. I Drove All Night.
Mhm.
This, I love this lip sync. There's a bunch on here that I just love, and I could probably watch 1,000 times. And I sort of put this up as like, if you want someone in a vacuum to watch Drag Race, you show them this lip sync. Sort of like maybe 10 years ago, people would have done with Alyssa versus Tatiana for oh my God, what's the song? Oh my
Shut
gosh.
Up and Drive.
From All Stars to uh Tatiana versus Alyssa Edwards.
Yeah, Shut Up and Drive, Rihanna.
Shut Up
Yeah,
and Drive, right. Like,
yeah.
it's, to me, it's that. And also I actually went back to look at Sweden, because I wanted to make sure I wasn't missing
Right.
any like lip syncs. And there is there's a, by the way, Vanity could literally be on this list twice, like with the Muppet song too. But she, on her own season, she did a precursor to the Muppet lip sync. There was this sort of jazzy scat song
Hmm.
that she did versus the iconic Antonia Nutshell, who's terrible in it. But Vanity shows so much range. She has so much range as a lip syncer who
Performer.
doesn't do. I mean, I think she can do a split. She doesn't really do them that often.
Right. She
but
doesn't
or
need
she
to. That's
saves
the
it.
thing.
She doesn't need to,
Yeah.
but she is a star. She can perform, and I forgot how often she did that on Sweden too. There was also a great Electra uh lip sync from Sweden too, but the other girl she was against was so terrible. I was like, I can't even consider this for honorable mention.
Yeah.
But Electra also is a great lip syncer. But that's my number 8. And I think I will go to my death saying, if you want to criticize the judging Global All Stars, you can. You cannot criticize the runways. You cannot criticize the queens in the challenges, and you cannot criticize the lip syncs because there are at least 5 top tier lip syncs out of that season, and that you don't even get that on regular US or All
Right.
Star season.
Exactly. To that end, too, let's also not forget part of what made that I Drove All Night lip sync work was the runway category, which was
Yes,
a wind-based thing. So they
yes,
had these billowing outfits as well, and it was really fun. I actually thought Pythia might have had a moment when she was on the corner of the stage and then she had all the
yeah.
stuff blowing back there. Like that was a really cool moment there, but I just think Vanity used it there. Did you just say that also her Menomina against Galavero could also be
It
in
could have been on
contention?
my it could have been on my top 10.
Oh,
It's
crazy.
I
That's
think
my
it's in
number
a
7.
oh, and we just
Like,
go to number 7.
let's just go. I mean,
Damn.
listen. It was one of the things where what Vanity Vane, she was good on her season. I mean, unquestionably,
Mhm.
but I will say she was the lip sync star on this one here. And for me, there was something, one of the things I loved about them picking Menomina, it was one of those just brilliant, inspired choices for a song, but it made perfect sense for Global All Stars because Global All Stars, I thought, especially with the challenges, was strongest when they let the queens lean into their original language. And what better lip sync than one that has no language? What better to lip sync than one where it is a universal, how well can you do comedy? Because you can't do this seriously in any way whatsoever. And listen, Galavero gave her try. Vanity Vane dominates every nanosecond of that stage on there. Every look, every little gesture, every unsure, like it is actually true. I've shown it to other people who have no idea any of these queens are, who have no idea about Global
Yeah.
All Stars, and they have instantly taken to it and they've loved it so much. It's the thing where universally it translates over, but it is an actual masterclass in comedy performance. And I cannot shake it no matter how much I think about it. Again, Global All Stars, lip sync central here. And for me,
Yeah.
it's so simple and genuinely so stupid. And I think that's part of the reason why I connect with it so much and it's so shareable. So that is absolutely on my list. So I'm so glad you mentioned that.
So it's funny, like I'm sort of convinced that when they found out that was the lip sync that Vanity went in with so much confidence because she probably thought there's no way Gala can do this. Because remember, Gala didn't speak English very well.
Right.
And it doesn't matter that it's mumbling, it's not her type of thing. And Vanity has done this in other lip syncs in other play contexts before. So I think you just feel the confidence of her too, feeling like, oh, I've got this in the bag. Even
Right.
though I think it was the second time she'd been in the bottom by then. It wasn't yeah, it must have been.
Right.
But no, that is a great lip sync. My number 7 is, I think, I'm going to be a shock to you. I don't think it's even on your radar. It is the finale lip sync from season 1 of Canada versus the World, Silky Nutmeg Ganache versus Raja O'Hara, River Deep Mountain
Deep Mountain
High.
High.
I
Oh my
love
God.
this lip sync so much. It gave me so much joy. It dropped, like, that finale dropped after Christmas. I think I must have watched it like 100 times. And it's because the two of them are just at their peak as drag performers. And they both surprise in like multiple ways. Raja has this amazing moment where she like flips off her coat, perfectly timed to the song. And she's giving, it's Tina Turner, but she's giving like, not really Tina, she's sort of giving Diana Ross, like trying to do Tina Turner. It's so good. And she's so captivating. And Silky, in a dress where she can barely walk, is doing this amazing, like, there's a moment where it goes doom doom do 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 do, and she's like shakes herself to it like do, 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 and it's so good. And you watch that lip sync and you're like, I don't know who won. They were both
Yeah.
so good. And there are people who got very angry. They were like, Silky won that lip sync hand down. And I'm like, I don't know. I thought Raja. And I just think it's full of so much joy. And you talk about context. That's how you sort of knew that Canada versus the World was very, very different than maybe UK or you. all the other girls are just rooting for them. They're
Right.
just so happy and they're having a blast. And the judges are having a blast and they're blown away by what they're doing. I just love that lip sync so much. If you can find it online if you search. It's definitely on TikTok. It's on Twitter if you like put in the right keywords. But that was my number 7.
And then I loved it too because also they beat out some tough competition to beat out
Yes.
Rita Baga, who was dominating the lip syncs a lot that
Mm-hmm.
season as well, and then also Victoria Scone, who was doing her own thing, like, and they had collided heads multiple times. So the fact that they reached over those levels to get there, and then they were at that moment, it just felt beautifully timed, and it was just a victory
Yeah.
lap. I loved it. I think it's great. I also think it's so fascinating that your previous pick was "I Drove All Night" by Vanity Vane and Pythia, because for me, my number 6, surprisingly, is I Drove All Night by Kiara
Ah.
and Priyanka from the very first season of Canada's
Oh.
Drag Race. It was fascinating too because like it's a upbeat, crazy song, but at the same time, like it was such a clear parallel between two different drag styles and also really opened up Priyanka as a performer for the rest of the world
Mm.
because it's an upbeat dance song. Kiara does everything. She does flips, she does tricks. She actually is kind of leading it for a bit before she just gets sloppy later on and takes off her shoes and starts doing all the other things which typically don't do well in a lip sync. Who knew keeping your wig, having your wig fall off and put it back on, you could win a lip sync? Who knew about that? But it was interesting because Priyanka takes the song and she does it straight faced. She does it seriously. Yes, she does the split. Yes, she does some moments, but she really embodies the drama of it in a moment that's like for a for a queen who just bombed Snatch Game, who it wasn't really known as like the dramatic one. She made a very interesting play, and it works out surprisingly well. There is this kinetic energy throughout the whole thing where your eyes are kind of darting around different places. And when you start seeing Kiara starting to get a little sweaty, that's when really the focus is like, nope, Priyanka has this in the bag. And she was one really broke the record for a lot of people of being the very first queen to lip sync twice before winning the crown, which previously had not really happened in any drag race real track history. So there was a little bit of a momentous occasion to that. But for me, that lip sync, it's chaotic and it's entertaining, and I keep coming back to it. It was one of the first ones I started rewatching a whole lot too because it just brought me a lot of joy. But for me, I think that's my last Canada related one for a while. But to me, that's my number 6 pick was I Drove All Night.
No, I think it's a great lip sync. It would be in my top 30. Like I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
it would be in my top 25. I think it's great. I think you really made a great point about how serious Priyanka is. I can't remember if the lip sync she did for Hello was before or after in that
It was
season.
after the one where she sent Home Alone of early.
Okay.
Yeah,
So that's the one that she pulled out the comedy chops and won that by doing the comedy thing. Like that
yeah.
worked for her there. But yeah, I really it's a good lip sync. I don't for some reason I like maybe it's recency bias probably a little bit, but I do love the Vanity Pythia one more, and I can't explain
Understandably,
why.
yeah.
Um, it might just be how it's shot. Like, that was also the first season of Canada, maybe it's the lighting, I don't know. But but the performers are great. And also shout out to Kira. I don't understand why she hasn't been back. Like she was a
Right.
great queen. She also everyone I remember at the time thought she went home early. Like
Mm-hmm.
she had good runways. Like it didn't really and she was on social media and she was doing stuff and I still think she's like a mainstay in like Quebec drag. So it's sort of surprised. I don't know if she's a bad relate. I don't know. I don't want to speculate, but
Yeah.
it's weird she hasn't come back.
Yeah.
Um,
We'd like to see you back, Kiara.
yeah.
Worldwidetpodcast@gmail.com if you want to spill that tea. Let us know.
My number 6 is probably going to be a surprise, another surprise for you.
Ooh.
Uh, although I think you did have a long list of like suggested ones, so maybe not. I went back and watched this, and I think in hindsight, this might be one of the best lip syncs of the entire franchise of Drag Race UK, and that is Electra Fence versus Vanity Milan for Moving On Up. If you go back and you watch this, what Electra Fence is doing in this lip sync is almost inhuman. It is un. She is doing. No one will understand this, but like who listens to this podcast, she's doing Mac McClung NBA dunk contest like stuff. That is not what human beings do. There is a moment where she flips 3 times back behind Vanity on this, and also she's 5'4",
Yeah.
like on this small stage, and then comes back and does a split, and then she goes and I don't know how her knees and her cartilage are not like destroyed. but it is unbelievable. And somehow, with all of this going on around her, Vanity still wins the lip sync. And like, and it's close, it's super close,
Right.
but like she embodies the song a little bit more. But you're just like Jax cannot do
No,
what
not at all.
Elektra does. And I sort of am sad that Elektra hasn't been. I don't know how much drag Elektra does anymore. We have sort of a mutual friend that I should probably ask if she knows. But that is just, if you go back and look at it, you go, wow. I think part of the problem that is that neither of those two queens got massive followings, and it's not really on social. It's hard to find. Like you have to really search for
Yeah.
it to look for it.
Yeah. And I think remember that one too is that there was the breakdancing portion, which of course inspired Michelle from the stage to go, "What the fuck?" Because she was confused as to what's happening. But it seemed it made sense to me. I mean, yes, she was
Yes.
doing the most over anything else, so unlike Vanity's control. Because also when Vanity does that skirt stop into the split,
Yeah.
like she just has such immense power control. Like
Yeah.
I love it so much. So I'm so
Yeah.
pleasantly surprised, and I'm so glad you picked that.
You know, I have to also say, like, I was fine with Vanity winning, but I do feel like that's a moment where Michelle ruined the lip. Like maybe if I were editors, I would have cut it. I think they wanted it in there to make it clear that Vanity deserved the win. But I
Hmm.
also feel like, come on, Michelle, you know what this is. Like this is
Right.
your. I mean, you can't be like you can't be mad at Queens for not trying, and then be
Right.
like mad if they're like literally lip syncing for their life, doing every possible thing, and it looked cool. Like it wasn't like what she was doing wasn't cool. So yeah, but that was weird. But anyway, we are up to number 5. What is your number 5, Evan?
I wonder if this is going to be on your list as well. It's very simple, it's very smooth, it's very clean, but it is Sagittaria versus Killer Queen versus Carmen Farala at the finale of España 1. They're doing a ballad. They're doing this actually a very nice song by Rocio Durcal. And it's simple. It's a torch song. They're all standing there. They're dramatic. And it's like the thing is they're all emoting so beautifully. They're all doing it very straight faced. They know it's not one for huge props or reveals, except for when Carmen Farala does the thing that no one had seen before, which is the actual reveal of a dry wig to a wet wig, which somehow she was able to do it out there. And then she looks drenched, and then she's giving even more emotion. And then the judges are applauding. Like it is like multiple things happening all at once, but it is like she was pretty much ordained as the winner, like almost 2 episodes prior when she was
Yeah.
doing the makeover challenge. It's like, yeah, I lent the other contestant this entire outfit and I banged out these two for me and the other one. And it's just like, okay, got it. Like she did not even really a challenge at this point. So it's like she was ordained to win. She didn't have to kill him that hard, and then she did that. And it's one of those things where, like, in an era of the reveal where we've seen so many other things, for something so simple and so effective, on top of the fact, like, Killer Queen's genuinely giving it too. Like, let's be real. But like, it was Carmen's moment and she seized it, and it was such a simple and beautiful moment. And for all of the extraordinary tricks and things that we've seen through these other lip syncs, sorry, that one just still stuck with me and was one of the most impactful moments from one of the earlier international iterations. So that's got to be my pick on there.
Well, all I'll say is, wow, as low as number 5. Geez, Evan, I thought a little, I thought more of you.
Yeah.
We may return to this lip sync, so I might just hold on to that.
Okay.
I
Fair,
will,
fair, fair.
but it is obviously a legendary lip sync, and I think the one thing I will add to what you said is that I don't speak Spanish. I don't think you speak Spanish, but when she reveals it, it is timed to a lyric in the song, not just to the beat, but there's something about the words that also uh, ties into that, and that's why they all gag, which is also why my number 5 is a awesome, fantastic lip sync. It is also from España. I just realized I have 2 España lip syncs on here. It is very recent, so we have recency bias. It is La Bella Vampi versus La Coco, Valtoldor El Grandor, which I believe I liked at the time more than you.
I think
This
so.
lip sync.
Yes.
And
I've come
it
around to
is
it, definitely, for sure.
it
Yes.
is it is you know, there's so many great things about this episode. First, that I can now pronounce Vampi's name because she shortened it to something that was actually you could actually read.
Kardashian. Yeah.
Van Barashian. But Lococo has a moment where basically it's the winner takes it all
Mhm.
in Spanish by a Spanish well-known Spanish diva. And Lococo has a moment where she says she's not going to lose, and she says I'm not, she doesn't say it, and the crowd goes wild, and the judges go wild, and it is just pitch perfect. Lococo, I really do. This was the moment where I was like, this whole episode actually, but this lip sync capped it off where I was like, I had predicted Lococo was going to win for a while because I knew that the Javis loved her because she was their type of queen. But I'm still sort of convinced she's next to Carmen. That she's like the second best winner of the franchise, and she can do anything. She's like, you just can tell she's a little Karen Thyrex in a way. Like you can see her doing almost anything.
Yeah.
But I love the lip sync, and it was their first live one, and it proved how great live lip syncs can still be Paramount and World of Wonder. But no, we're not doing that anymore. So we're on to number 4. Evan, what is your number 4 greatest drag race global lip sync?
Well, I think number 4 comes after 1, 2, 3, go, right? I'm pretty sure that's how it happens. Yeah.
Ah,
I had to Horacio versus Lexa. It is the Brooklyn Evie of the international franchises. Again, we're creating a resource here for people to go and if they want to see some of the great international stuff that's going on. It's Greg said so much about already needed to be said. It's the go-to. It's fantastic. The song is great, and that was one of my favorite things is that sometimes the songs they introduce you to some great stuff on there, which I think is the strength of a drag race lip sync, and that one absolutely stuck with me. Absolutely, I don't think I need nothing else to be said. That's my number 4. What's your number 4?
my number 4 is actually another Drag Race Mexico lip sync.
Oh, ooh,
It is Galavaro versus Matraca for
yes,
Bezcocho
yes,
by, am I pronouncing that right? Bizcocho
yeah,
by
yeah, yeah.
Rosalia. By the way, Euphoria star
Mhm.
Rosalia, also Los Angeles resident Rosalia,
Definitely.
and if you're on the east side, you might see her at like Erewhon.
You know,
But a great lip sync. Everyone was like, oh no, Matraka probably can't lip sync. You know, she's just this, you know, whatever. And this was when we were like, oh no, she can do it all. I mean, she can't do comedy, but she can do it all. And it's a great, great lip sync. And also in context, especially Matraka is doing the numbers from she's doing new moves from like the music video or the TikToks for it.
Mhm.
So it in context, it was like at the time it was like a whoa. It was
Yeah.
also they'd only shot it a couple months before, so it was still the song was still relevant. Rosalie was actually touring at the time. Like it was she was actually I think she had just been in even like on the West Coast. So
Mhm.
everyone was like, oh my gosh, like it was that the song was still hot. And it came out and it was just like boom. But I love that lip sync, and you know, even though I'm Gala, I have a love-hate relationship with. My girl Matraka, I love this lip sync. It's so good.
Yeah. Petrarca robbed, let's be real, but also,
Yes.
I mean, just they had such a kinetic energy on stage, and I think some of the best lip syncs aren't. You can always have like there's two queens competing, but then there's times when two queens are against each other, and then you could tell the two queens are working with each other, and sometimes that can lead to its own different, unique chemistry and energy by itself. But fantastic, I loved that was one of my favorite ones to revisit when we were doing the research for this. Excellent, excellent choice. Mexico kind of underrated in some of that department as well. But yeah,
Oh,
let's yeah. I will see what Mexico 3 if it does happen comes out to bring us. So yeah.
it's definitely happening. They've announced it. We just
Good,
don't.
good, good.
It probably won't come till the fall.
Yeah.
So what is your number 3, Evan?
We had a friend over last night and we were talking about this episode and ranking these lip syncs and like what other one should I look at. So I had to actually put this one on to really highlight you need to see this. And it's one of the things where I'm not even sure if I'd call this a good lip sync. And it's still number 3 because it is the most entertaining, stupid thing I've ever seen. Y'all, you haven't seen Queens actually go at it until you've seen Beverly Hills versus Queen Kong doing the beginning from
I'm
Down
leaving.
Under.
I'm leaving the podcast.
Oh, baby. Baby. Greg's gone. He's not doing he's coming back. Oh my god. First of all, I'm gonna say my thing, and then I want to hear Greg's entire thing about this
You
here.
have this ahead of the Carmen Farala finale lip sync in your
Here's the thing.
ranking?
All right. I need to lay the stage on here. First off, this is a hate lip sync. These queens hate the living hell out of each other, for one, which is fantastic. They do this whole workroom fight right before it. They seem to be at peace with each other for it. And then it's the thing where this is RuPaul's The Beginning. It's not a song that you should necessarily even give it your all to. And then these two queens do, I think, if we want to talk about what Elektra Fence was doing in that lip sync against Vanity Milan, this is like the X Factor where it is chaos on stage. And for me, we want to talk about drag artists. We want to talk about like intention. We want to talk about performance. And this is chaos. I have this down at my number 3 because it is so stupidly entertaining to see these queens toss each other on stage. Queen Kong, I don't know what her move is, if we have a name for it. This in-air barrel roll that she does, these like half like semi-complete, like she's throwing her body on the stage while all of a sudden Beverly Kills is doing the splits and is upside down. And at one point you're looking at like even the judges, they're like, what's happening? What's happening? It is like so actual. It's not even controlled chaos. It is actually chaos that they have on here. And it's the thing where, like, again, I put it on because it is so ridiculous. You reach to the pure limit of what a drag race lip sync can be without it actually calling in the cops for something illegal happening. It is such out of control wildness on here. And when I'm doing this list, I am putting it down on stuff that I personally find entertaining or stuff I want to put on to show people.
Sure.
It's stupid. It's kind of bad, but it is amazing in its own way. I'm sorry. I will gladly hear the counter argument, but I gotta put it on there. Go ahead, Greg.
Listen, I respect all opinions. I do think
All drag is valid.
All drag is valid. I do think Queen does call it a barrel roll. I think
Yeah.
she's like referred to it that way. I actually like that barrel roll more in context for her Alyssa Edwards Rihanna lip sync she did. I think it works better in that context. She actually rehearsed. She worked on it more. She like trained to do it more.
Yes, you could tell there's a marked improvement for what she did in Down Under season 2. Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. Until you mentioned this lip sync, it hadn't even like geared in my mind as like an option, which is fine.
Yeah.
My number 3, because I
Yes.
don't want to say anything else, because I think Queen has gotten enough,
Wait, sorry.
negative.
What?
I don't want to say anything else about the lip sync because I don't want to be mean to Queen Kong. I or Beverly. My number 3 was your number 5, Carmen Farrell versus Killer versus Sagittaria. We talked about it before.
Please.
Don't need to dwell more on it. Just to say that it is an iconic lip sync. And dear God, Carmen, please learn English. Please learn more English. Please take as many classes as you
All-Winners
can.
crown. Yeah.
We need you to beat Kiona for all winners and scare the American girls, because too many of the great American queens are probably not going to do all winners next. So we need you on it. What is your number 2, Evan? We're getting close now. Now I'm wondering, I'm thinking we might have very different top 2s. What is your number 2?
Now, my number 2, I know your feelings about some of the people on here, so I do not know what it is. But if we're talking about impact, I have to be honest too. The only lip sync that I've seen on an international season that's brought me to tears. It's the one that is probably closest in emotion and in spirit to the infamous All Stars 1 Dancing on My Own lip sync between Jujubee and Raven. I had to rewatch it because I had to make sure. No, it has to be there. La Big Bertha versus Lolita Banana, France season 1, core. It is a ballad, and it is just heartbreaking. Like I'm actually getting chills even thinking about it right now, because when you watch it in episode, these two queens are like at the bottom, and it is such a starkly, they don't always do a ballad, much less a sad ballad, but holy shit. I mean, the moment to talk about is Lolita Banana shaving her head on stage too. She does it. It's real. You can see it in the judges' reaction shots. They are stunned by this, but not to her credit. La Big Bertha, she is stripping down almost completely naked on stage. They're holding each other. They're grasping each other. They're crying over the emotion of this ballad here. Like, it is such a stark moment. It is the thing where it moves beyond the scale of a Drag Race lip sync. It is artists just being nakedly exposed, physically and like literally exposing their souls on stage to the point where it actually is just so affecting. It's like it's hard not to be have any sense of emotional resonance towards it. I know Greg has definitely spoken about their feelings about Little Banana before on here, but I have to remember during her run, she
Sure.
really could deliver in some of those moments here. And for me, that one left such a strong, shocking impression, and it really showed that French girls are cut from something different. So for me, when I was thinking about iconic lip syncs, I have to go with the one that still affected me. So yeah, Bertha versus Little Banana, it was inevitable for me on that one. What were your
No,
thoughts on it? I don't think we've ever
it
talked
is a
about
great.
this.
I actually rewatched it. I
Yeah.
do think it's a great lip sync. I think it's a slow burner. It gets going as it goes on. And the one thing about France is they do really long lip syncs. Sometimes it's almost 3 minutes. Sometimes it's
Right.
like 2.5. It's not the US like I think the best you ever get now for the US is like an hour and 15, sorry, no, a minute and 15 seconds, like at
Mhm.
best. Um, so I do think it's great. And I just it doesn't have emotional resonance with me because I felt like what Lolita was doing was a desperate stunt to stay. And
Mm.
that to me overcame like I thought what Bertha was doing was better. I
Right.
felt like this just felt super desperate. It didn't feel like I understand it's in the
Performative.
context of the song. She just
Yeah.
performed. Which is part of my problem with Lolita, is I feel
Yeah.
like so much of what she does is performative, and I don't believe her or trust her. Like, sorry, never
Valentine
interviewing her again.
worldwidetpodcast at
No, never
gmail.com.
interviewing again. But I do think it's a beautiful lip sync, and it again, I'm just glad France has representation on here. My number two, which I'm guessing is did not make your top 10 list, is also one of my all-time favorite lip syncs, with perhaps one of the all-time greatest lip sync performance in it, at least of the last 5 years. And I will forgive the makeup the person they're lip syncing again is wearing, but because I just always want to forget she's there. Is Marina Summers versus Hannah Conda, UK versus the World Season 2 for Release Me, which is also one of my all-time favorite songs, so I have an
Right,
emotional
right,
connection to it. But that is a utterly incredible, like she was already a star in that season, but
right.
that lip sync is so good. And it's just I feel bad. I don't know if the Philippine Queens will ever be able to live up like on any international season to what Marina did. But also Marina was robbed from winning season one. Although I guess I forget people like, she was sort of like a bitch like on the show. And I don't remember that. But I maybe it was like not speaking Tagalong, right? It's like is that yeah. Like
Tagalog, yeah.
yeah, I not speaking the language and getting like I'm only reading the subtitles, but utterly incredible lip sync. I've literally watched it thousands of times, maybe not thousands, but hundreds of times.
Yeah.
It's so good. I would kill for her to perform it without Hannah. I love Hannah. You know what? If Hannah just didn't have the freaking dog whiskers, that horrible make like Hannah never should have been in the top that week. That was like the problem. But I love that song. It's so good. And when she twirls around and she like takes off, and when Alan Carr's jaw drops, and you're just like, it's like the Zuperter film of like when Kennedy was shot. I know every shot, I know every angle, I know every like moment of it. It's only not my number one for a big reason, but it came close. But that's my number two. What is your number two? Oh, we already did it. You already said it was.
Yeah.
What do you think of this one?
I think it is a phenomenal choice. Truth be told, Marina Summer has been in so many great lip syncs that
Yep.
it was really hard for me to pick. Because I also think about when she did "I'm a Dreamer" at the very first episode of
Mm-hmm.
Canada UK versus. Like she's had so many great moments on there, and even I was thinking about her Philippines run too. Philippines, I'm actually very surprised I don't have the Philippines lip sync on here because they're entertainers and they're great, but like that's the fine line between a truly great memorable lip sync and like pretty good like good enough type lip
Yeah.
syncs. Like there's so many good things there, and I'm so glad Marina made the list because she absolutely deserves it. She can sell the living hell out of any song that she attacks. But I think that's a phenomenal choice too. And again, to her credit, Hannah isn't giving up on the stage. She's still emoting even with the dog face from the challenge on there. Like it's still powerful and effective. But I'm glad we got some representation. That's an excellent pick, I would say.
So now I'm wondering, we might actually have the same number one, Evan. I'm not sure. We might.
I'm thinking it, and again, y'all, we don't know about that. We do have some honorable mentions, and maybe we'll talk about
Oh
those
wait,
after.
do you want to do the? Let's do them. Let's do them really quickly now. What are your honorable mentions? Like just as quick as we can.
Okay, but real quick, Janie Jacquet versus Pangina Hills, We Like to Party from UK versus the World. So stupid, so great, but also Pangina destroys the stage.
Also
Organza
one of
versus
mine. Yeah, also one of my honorable mentions.
Awesome. Organza versus Shannon Scarlett, Festa from Brazil season one. Two queens who work together, who clearly know they got something going on. I think it is fantastic. Ilona versus Priyanka, hello, stupid, comedic, fun. I think a lot of people would be remiss if we didn't mention Cherry Valentine versus Taste Memory from UK season two.
Oh well,
I
I don't.
I don't have as much
Like
a great feeling about it. I just see it on so many lists that people have of great lip syncs. It's like they're
I
serving face, sure, but
I
you
didn't
know,
think it was good then. I didn't think it was good now.
I'm
I just
glad
and
you
I
and I
love
agree at the
taste.
very
I
least.
love
Yeah.
taste.
The only other ones I have are actually you mentioned Electro Fence versus Vanny Milan moving on up there. I have El Drove All Night up there. One I had to revisit Corazon versus Turing from Philippine season one. I'm feeling sexy tonight. You're watching it because Turing is feeling sexy tonight. This big girl and she is selling it comedically. And you also had La Bella Vampi versus La Coco. That was on my honorable mentions as well. Who did you got?
Um, I've got a couple of we already had a couple. One, and I mentioned Soa versus Galavara for the beginning from Global All Stars. I do want to say on my honorable mentions, just because it is so fucked up. Sipario versus Lena Galore on Drag Race Italia, where there have been queens who like blocked each other, but like she literally like was blocking her for a good first
Doing
half of the lip sync.
stunts. Yeah.
And Priscilla, my girl, was like, no. Like this is she read her a new one when she eliminated her. Like she was so mad. But I will say, I one while I was doing my research, one thing that sort of blew my mind that has insanely gotten lost is the comedic talents of La Grande Dame. La Grande Dame has an incredible comedic lip sync versus Paloma, who won the season
Mhm.
on Drag Race France 2. And she's just not a pretty, like, she's just not a pretty model queen. Like, she can do comedy. And then every time we touch lip sync, she destroyed Kita Minaj, like, easily. And then I watched again, and even with hindsight, it made me so mad she eviscerated Tia, like eviscerated her in that lip sync, like
Yep.
for at UK versus the World, and still Tia got through somehow. Um, those are the ones that just sort of come to mind really quickly. But Evan, let's talk about it. Who is your number one, and do we have the same one?
Let me just do a couple questions real quick. Is your number one in a live finale?
Yes,
Is it from a European country?
yes.
Is it by chance an English language song, even though it's a European country?
It's an English language song from the person who is one of the artists from that country, even though it's English language. Yes.
So I think we can both agree that there is no better international lip sync than Kiona versus Sarah Forever doing Titanium from the Drag Race France season 2 live finale. Everybody, we did not plan this, by the
No,
way.
we didn't.
It's just that fucking good. It
It
really is.
is.
I truly when I think about the US seasons, the season 9, the first time they really did the live
Hmm.
lip sync SmackDown for the Crown thing, that there was a kinetic energy to all of those performances that they do, to the Britney,
Yeah.
to the ending Whitney. Like there's something incredible about all of it. And for me, I had that same energy with this lip sync here. There's something about seeing Sarah Forever in this white robe just getting ready so professional, and Kiona starting out in a poof wig and then this giant suit that she has, and they are ready to go. Completely different styles of lip syncing. And I mean, you can explain a little bit more what happens, but there's a energy to that stage from the audience that they're clearly feeding off of that is
Yeah.
nothing like anything else on this list that we have.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's one of the like if you were to throw in the US, it is top five all time. It is so utterly the energy is incredible. They hit every beat they want to hit. They don't get in each other's way, which is sort of the problem like Drag Race season 10, where it became messy, where they stupidly
Mhm.
put all three there because I don't know, it wasn't
Bang
supposed to
bang.
be, but like they didn't think that Aquaria was not going to be able to beat Eureka because she slipped. It was a whole thing. So Eureka made it to the finale when she wasn't supposed to. Like it was a whole thing, whatever. But it's so good. And Kiona is beyond confident. She has no worries in the world. Sarah is fighting for her life. She has the blue thing that is like insanely creative and like still doing splits. And they cut to Kitty and oh my God, what's her name? Who's
Daphne
the drug?
Berkey.
Daphne Berkey in the audience, and they are in legit shock. Like this is more than they've ever dreamed. The crowd is on its feet, and they cut to Nikki looking at them, and you can just see Nikki like, whoa,
Beaming.
like whoa, beam like, and then she's lip syncing to the song herself. It's so good. It is top tier, high drag. It's why people will say, like, if you know anything about drag and all the franchises, and you hear someone say, "Oh no, Kiona could whip these U.S. girls," and you'll hear some person who only watches U.S. drag go, "No, there's no way." I'm like, "No, she would. Rue would love her. She would destroy a season." And
Absolutely.
absolutely, and it's so good, and it just makes you realize, oh, this is why she said she'll never do it again.
Yeah.
Like when you end here, when you
Well,
end with this performance, why you don't, you know, there's
exactly.
no need to go back.
And I think the thing is, this isn't the biggest tricks or flips or any other
No.
kind of performance. Even the reveals, they're very simple, but they're well executed. It really is performance. And that's the
Yeah.
thing where it is just expert level performance that we would expect from a Sasha Velour, that we would expect from some of these other queens that like it just set a template on there where it's just hard to replicate that kind of experience on here. I felt like every time I watch it, I get the same rush of just it feels like you're watching the best lip sync for the first time. Like it's such an immediate repeat value, completely different queens. The only thing, like, and you can see it a little bit, is that you could tell that Sarah Forever has a little bit more time forming the exact words in her mouth. Like she's still doing a good job, but it's obviously still not the same language because we all know Kiona is fluent, but it's
Yeah.
still just dynamic. And by the time when Sarah does the split and then Kiona walks over her and starts doing some of the poses that from Ballroom, it's over. It's a wrap. It's beautiful.
And,
They're both excellent. Yeah.
and I think one of the reasons why it resonates across the world with all the branches is because that's a song, even though it is in English, that you hear wherever you go all over the world. Like you'll hear it at any gay club, you'll hear it at any like beach club, like anywhere. Like it's gigantic. It's like a gigantic thing. So I just think it's awesome. But Evan, we need to wrap this up
Yeah.
because I need to watch something for work. But really quickly, who is your Drag Race International Queen of the Week?
You know what? I'm gonna throw some love over our way for one of the lip sync girls that we did talked about. I am gonna pick Kiara from Canada season one. I am going to throw some love her way as well. We will, as always, put the mention in the lows because guess what? I think she did some love. I think there's a good reason why we should have her back. So that's why I'm gonna throw my vote that way for her. How about you, Greg?
My pick is she's an American queen, but she was a host of Drag Race Mexico, and she has seen one of the lip syncs we talked about, or actually she's seen two of them, I think. Wait, am I wrong? Maybe just one. And she is also the redemptive lip sync queen. She had a horrifying can I keep it on please lip sync in her what she was eliminated, and then she came back and destroyed Monet Exchange doing the Ariana Grande for you, and it's the one and only Valentina, the mysterious. Sometimes she posts social media when she's having events. I'm sure she doesn't. I just saw that she had an event this Valentine's Day, like in downtown LA, only because I just was checking to see what was up, and she'd been tagged in something, but I don't think she promoted it. But I'm glad she's working, and
Yeah.
she's very smart. I think she's figured out the less you say, the more mysterious it is, the more people pay attention to you. But I will always love our East Los Angeles queen, Valentina. Um, and even if the fans were crazy and they wanted to kill Alexis Michelle, like it's all good. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, but Evan, I think we're taking next week off.
Yes.
But the week after, I have an idea, and we'll keep it a secret. But I have an idea of what we should do for our next episode as we wait for the next international franchise to come.
I think that's a lovely idea. And hey, if you all have their own thoughts about the lip syncs, either leave us a note in the comments of the YouTube video or on the Instagram Worldwide Tea Podcast. That's where the @ is. And otherwise, good lip sync. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
All right. Take care. Bye bye.